saddest part for the Black community is that oppression often breeds more religiosity, right? So this is one reason why you see Black people are more religious than everybody else, because we are, we have been oppressed more so than anybody else.
And I personally experienced it by going to the PWIs and all that good shit.
Mm-hmm.
But white folks would look at me in my face and tell me, well, Sean, you're such a good one. You're not like all the others. You're not like the others. And, it took me a long time to be offended by that shit.
You have to disconnect your emotional attachment to the religion. I can teach them all the knowledgeable things, the literal, of why this story is unreal. But until we take away that emotional attachment, all that knowledge don't mean nothing, right? Now, once you cross that river, then the devil goes away. It's like, oh, I left Christianity and now the devil's gone.
Welcome to Prodigal, the podcast, where we discuss inspiring stories of self-discovery and transformation. Join your host, Don Jackson, and his dynamic co-host, Big Sean, as they lead you through captivating conversations, all designed to ignite your spirit and broaden your horizons. Whether you're on a journey of personal growth or simply enjoy staying up to date on the latest in culture, you've made the right choice. Get ready to be inspired, entertained, and enlightened. This is Prodigal, the podcast.
Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Prodigal the Podcast. I'm your host, Don Jackson. Joining me, my co-host, Big Sean.
What it do? What's happy New Year? And I mean, Donald Trump Day to you, baby.
Oh my God, man! Wait, I mean, at the top.
I'm just saying.
Damn.
How about that?
All right. Well, we have a very special guest.
Oh yeah,
this brother is on fire. He has a community,
does
deconstruction Christianity, and he's known around the world. And I'm just happy that he took the time out to come chat with us.
Hey man,
ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Coach Ren.
Why the big booty say, hey?
I appreciate it.
How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. And
Good.
better to be on your show. I look forward to it. So here we are. Let's get it going.
All right.
Yeah,
man,
you're
well,
looking mighty good over there, looking like one of the original Buffalo Soldiers and shit. I
Hey,
mean,
back-
I'm talking about old black cowboy. I ain't mad at you, baby. We from Tulsa,
Hey.
Oklahoma. So you know what that is.
I'm actually from Atlanta, so.
Oh, shit.
But I live in San Antonio.
Oh,
okay.
okay. Oh, okay. I
Okay,
got you.
okay,
Alamo.
Even though-
Okay.
still got popcorn and all that jazz.
Actually, I put the popcorn company on hold as well as the cigar lounge. Been working, 7 days a week for the last 12 years. So, we're taking a little time just to kind of sit back, recuperate, focus on the coaching company and the life coaching company, and, really and taking the Deconstructing Christianity podcast a lot more seriously and treating it like a company in itself. So we just took a step back, moved to San Antonio and, the semi-retirement. And then we just see where we go from here.
Man.
All right.
Awesome. Well, you're definitely doing a real good job, man. You do produce some real life content that people can really dive in. No matter how deep they want to go, they can listen to you and get pretty deep on some subjects that we don't talk about every day.
Right.
Scared about.
Or scared to talk about, or
Right.
really take the time to go study that scholarship. You've been studying a lot of scholarship over the years because you get pretty deep with it. So, first of all, let's take it from the top. Today's society, with the election of Trump, with things that's going on with the tariffs, with this new dictatorship that is upon us, what say you?
Right. That's a lot. Very broad scope to look at. So the interesting thing about this, and I kind of talked about this on a video that I did a couple of days ago. Well, when the time this comes out, it'll be a couple of weeks ago. But one of the things that I talked about is the fact that with this, he was able to get into office by drumming up that religious right. And one of the side effects of that, though, is the fact that now there are more and more people who are walking away from religion. And one of those caveats is because religion is starting to impede in people's lives, trying to be forced in people's lives. So even though he's there, it actually is going to turn out as a good thing as far as people deconstructing, because when you have a religious group that tries to assume governmental powers and the government is enacting a person in charge who's going to run religion for that government, it actually will create a situation where people start to back away even more. One of the largest group of growth is people who are walking away from religion. Matter of fact, for the United States, for every one person that joins Christianity, 6 people leave. Mm-hmm. And this is Pew Research data that was published in May of 2024. So we're going to continue to see that type of thing happening. And as he devalues the dollar, take away people's ability to be able to just live and eat, and these tariffs start to wreck the economy, people are going to see the divide between the rich and the poor grow even more. Like if you are into day trading or anything like that, if you work, then you could have been in a NASDAQ supported stock right before the tariff, get out of it, watch it plummet, short it, and then jump back in it when they put a pause on it and keep doing that. Most of us don't do that. But the
like his friends
people,
did,
they have done that. And so you're going to see a bigger divide within the country. And I think ultimately he's polarizing the country even more so than it's already polarized. And there's the slim chance that through that, the common enemy will bring people closer, but also through that, hopefully we'll see more and more people walk away from, the blind faith that they are caught up into. Just like how England recently, it didn't pass, but they want to make street preaching illegal. I'm pretty sure, like you guys, I like to just go out in town and not have to be a barrage of people preaching at me, or the Hebrew Israelites in their Power Ranger outfits trying to tell me what my nationality is. So trying to claim that I'm an Israelite. So I'm overly optimistic in most situations. So I'm always looking for where is the silver lining in everything. But this is a very, very dark cloud. Very dark cloud.
I agree. Very dark cloud. And I do also agree that it's really for the better. This needs to happen now than later, because as you see it's unfolding, people are like, wow, people don't know what to do. They really believe that this country was, we were about to overcome. We shall overcome.
Now, the saddest part for the Black community is that oppression often breeds more religiosity, right? So this is one reason why you see Black people are more religious than everybody else, because we are, we have been oppressed more so than anybody else. Now, I'm not claiming victim mentality. It's just the reality of things. And that's how it normally goes in any situation. This is why Africa is an incredibly religious, sub-Saharan Africa especially, is incredibly religious, because it's the cell of hope. When you feel like the government is not for you, the police are not for you, the education is not for you, economics are not for you, the only hope that you may be able to muster is running to a church and they selling you that just keep on going, the first will be last and the last will be first. But if the first will be last and the last will be first, but everybody's still getting in. So it doesn't matter if I go in first or it doesn't matter if I go in last. So if it doesn't matter and everybody goes in, why the hell am I sitting here suffering? That's the logic that we have to come to realize, and that all this suffering and accepting all this negative laws and provisions and executive orders that are coming down that are affecting us, in a negative format, we shouldn't be accepting of that. When you got these people out here, like the pastor Mitchell, whatever his name is, something Mitchell, where he's telling Black kids, Black parents that you need to submit yourself to authority. I don't know if you saw him, this whole thing.
Yeah.
You need to submit yourself to authority. And the thing about it is, why should I submit myself to an authority that is designed to punish me and continue to punish me? If that was the case, why didn't, then Malcolm was wrong. Martin was wrong. Huey was wrong. Stokey was wrong. All these people who went against authority, and not for the sake of building the kingdom of God, went against the authority of man. And even though they look at Romans, where it tells you that whatever government God has placed above you, you are to obey it. Those men then were wrong. So the very benefit that this preacher has, he's saying that those people in the past should never have done it. This administration and many others have had people, they have people in place to keep the pastors in line so that they can keep the sheep in line. And so that's why they are so brazen with it, getting rid of DEI, getting rid of other programs in colleges and schools, trying to change the history books in America, trying to get rid of Black history in its totality. All these things they try to do in order to keep the oppressed at the oppressed level. Because if we had an equal opportunity to truly show how unequal we are, we would surpass many of their expectations, and we would surpass our own expectation. The church ain't
because
teaching
we
that.
have.
Even at the most oppressed states, we have surpassed what they expected us to do.
Exactly.
I mean, most of the time we look at Tulsa, but there are many cities where the U.S. highway system was designed to destroy Black communities. Like, really, if you do a deep dive into the U.S. highway system, you'll see that through Alabama and through Florida and through Georgia, they designed that highway system to destroy Black people, to destroy the economy, to destroy the wealth that was being grown, and to destroy the power base. Growing up in Atlanta, I-20 was built to divide and keep Black people out of downtown Atlanta.
They did the same thing in Tulsa with Interstate 244.
Mm-hmm.
Right after they burnt up, everything on Greenwood. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah. And that's what happens. That's the situation that we find ourselves under. But as long as we stay attached to this religion that tells you that you should suffer and that Jesus was a suffering servant and you need to still be a suffering servant. As long as we are taught that and teach our children that, then we'll always have this mindset, this mental block that keeps us in a suffering state and never allow us to grow out of, to actually, it talks about milk for babes and meat for strong men, but they want to keep Black people on milk, milk. That's why these churches don't really teach how to elevate yourselves, but just to hope and pray and hope and pray. And hope and prayer ain't done nothing for nobody.
Woke up.
Exactly.
So tell me, when did you start deconstructing?
Well, it's my pathway was kind of interesting. So at 9 years old is when I first started asking questions. But from 9 until about, say, 25, 26, I wasn't trying to deconstruct from Christianity to walk away from it. I was trying to find the true knowledge of Christianity, the true version of Christianity that I believed at the time Jesus was actually talking about. Not what the Romans made, not what the Egyptians made, not what anybody else made, not what America or England or any of these places. What was first century Jesus teaching? So I was asking questions and getting kicked out of churches at a young age. I think the last time I was kicked out of a church, I was 12. And that's what my grandmother just told me.
We got a little in common. Well, I always got kicked out of Sunday school.
Yeah.
Ask them questions.
Oh, Sunday school, Bible study. I mean, I was in church Sunday, all day, Wednesday, then all day Saturday. I was in church all day. And I was actually trying to make Christianity work. And I was praying constantly. I went to the Marine Corps. I got the opportunity to go to Israel twice for 8 weeks during my first few years. Later on, I did get to go back again. Got to go to the Vatican. Went to the Vatican archives, a little bit of it. They ain't gonna let you just go all the way through it. Got a chance to go to a lot of the sites. Went to Mecca, kind of lied, told them that I was studying Islam at the time. I was studying Islam, but I went to Mecca. I got around. Got to go to all these places. It was beautiful and disturbing at the same time. The blind faith that I saw in Israel was one thing, but the blind faith that I saw in Mecca was a whole nother level of blind faith. That was blind faith. I kill you if you do something outside of what we are telling you to do. You pretty much have to swear that you are Muslim before you can even be let into the city. You have to participate in all the different rituals. If you just want to stand back and watch, you're liable to get locked up. So you had to participate. So I had to do my 7 cycles around this little stone, throwing my little rocks, Allahu Akbar and all that shit. I had to do all of it just for safety reasons.
Right.
So,
correct.
You goddamn right.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. But
get out of there.
Yeah. Now, see, at that time frame, I was questioning Christianity. That's when I first started questioning Christianity, is when I was studying Islam back in the early 90s. This is circa like 1992 when that happened.
You locked up in jail or something when you decided to look into Islam?
And I was in the Marine Corps.
Most brothers, they go to jail and then they decide they want to become Muslim.
Yeah. No, I didn't have any jailbird convictions.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah.
I just asked.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of Negroes do. They feel safe on the yard, you know.
But I just went through those years and then got stationed in Germany, got to go to a lot of places, visit a lot of historical sites, and just start seeing how. And one of the important things that happened is that I met a curator of the Museum of Tel Aviv, Israel. Me and him was pen paling for years. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm asking him questions. He's sending me where to go research it. But we didn't have the internet back then. All that process. And then it wasn't until I was about 27, 28 years old when I really started saying to myself, you know what? This stuff there's the possibility that I've never thought about. And that's that this may not be true. So for the next 7 years, that's when my true deconstructing started. But before, I was trying to reconstruct Christianity to fit a non-political, non-racial mentality. Trying to find the purity within it. But those last 7 years, from about 27 to 35, that's when I really started looking into the idea that maybe this just isn't true. So let me go deeper into the ancient religions. Let me see where these stories could have possibly come from. And that's when I started reaching out to archaeologists and linguistic archaeologists to find out about the Sumerians and the Akkadians and the Greeks and the Romans and the Aboriginals in Australia and so on and so forth. And that's when the world really opened up and the internet had came out. And so I was able to really, where other people were going to Google thisplace.com, I was going to thisplace.edu. I was going to Oxford's libraries and going to the museums libraries and digging deeper into PhD papers. So you can go online and right now, if you was doing it, you would either use like Academia EDU or Google Scholar, which is different from regular Google. And you can find PhD papers where somebody got their dissertation writing about why the Gospels were not written by the actual apostles. What was the political ramifications of Irenaeus or Caesar, Tibius of Caesarea? And so when I started getting into that level of understanding, I started to see how this religion was created for political reasons. The more and more I saw that, by the time I was 35, I had just walked away from it. I told the pastors that I was under, I actually went back to all the pastors that I previously used to be under and told them that this is all to be false, to be plagiarized religions through a normal process of separating from one group to another group and creating an ancient antiquity for ourselves. And many of them to this day, I provide counsel to them because they struggle, yet their finances are too attached. So they can't walk away, especially the ones who are in the Methodist church. They're fully.
They're struggling with the fact that either they fucking with little Timmy or fucking with Sister Bertha.
Do you think most of them, I can't see how you can go through theology school and really believe this shit when most theology schools tell you this ain't the truth. This is the truth.
That interesting. So one of the churches that I had belonged to, what they wanted to do was give me a scholarship to go to the Dallas Seminary, right? And Dallas Seminary, I believe it's Baptist. And but before I was getting ready to go, I was all for it at first. And then the thing that struck a nerve with me is that my pastor at the time, who had graduated from Dallas Seminary, told me that before you go there, your faith needs to be strong, because he then let me know that you're going to find out a lot of things that are taught in the church that are not actually in the Bible. You're also going to find out that a lot of things are doctrine and not
Right.
Bible.
Facts.
And you'll find out the history of all these different translations and how they came about and all the politics around it. So your faith has to be so cultivated that you're willing to say, regardless of all this information that they're giving me, I'm still going to believe this. And that caused me pause. But I was like, that makes no sense. I should go to seminary and get stronger in my faith, right?
Right. So you know that what they say, the one thing that you won't find in the Bible that you expect or you think that's in the Bible.
What's that?
White people.
It's a couple now. Yeah. Well, let me not say white people. Let me say some very, very light-skinned people.
We got light-skinned niggas too.
Yeah. Pontius Pilate would have been a very light-skinned man, you know.
Oh, okay.
He wouldn't have been white, but he would have been very light-skinned, you know. All Mediterranean people during that time frame were people of color. When you look at those, the Bible is not really centered on the Levant, though it's really a Mediterranean story. Because all those people weren't dealing with people in sub-Saharan Africa or over in India or in the Americas. Everything is really connected with Mediterranean people. So you just went around the land of the Mediterranean. Is the culmination of the biblical stories, because they're pulling from all these other Mediterranean sources, which would include the Levant as well, which would include Mesopotamia. They're pulling from all those sources. And that's why you see Greek influence and Roman influence and Phoenician and all these other influences. A lot of people like to think of the Kemetic story being the heaviest part, but the heaviest part actually is Mesopotamian stories that created the beginnings of the Bible. And even some of the prophecies or the prophetic thought processes that the Bible supposedly has. But these are all just old Mesopotamian stories with some additions of Egyptian and Greek and Phoenician and all these other people. There ain't many white people, no. Light skin, so I'm gonna retract that. There ain't no white people, just some very light skinned, light skinned people of color.
That's it. Light skinned people of color. I go with that one.
Yeah, you really don't get white people till a few centuries later, because even your people, even your Italian people in around the time frame of Constantine still would not have been mixed up with the more Germanic tribes or the Norwegian tribes. So that mixture still would not have come yet. And this is even before being conquered by the Moors. They still wouldn't have been, Scandinavian white. They'd have been like a little olive brown,
Yeah, olive brown.
Yeah.
So question, where do white people come from?
The mountains.
All right. There's this movement of people who start to look at, rhDNA and Neanderthals and that sort of thing. But one of the things that they're mistaken is that even the Neanderthals were people of color. The adaptation of melanin depletion started about 8,000 to 9,000 years ago when the Northern Europeans began to start settling more inland because of animals and farming. The lack of eating a seafood diet caused a decrease in their melanin. Their natural environment didn't require as much protection from the sun. So the northern people who were black and brown started decreasing about 8,000, 9,000 years ago to the point where the lighter skin became the dominant gene. White people still have levels of melanin in their skin, but it's really just an adaptation from a different diet and living in that northern climate. The situation where that gene started becoming the more dominant gene happened around about 6,000 years ago. So you have like this 2,000 year migration of melanin leaving the skin. And we can still see this with when the first Asians went across the Bering Strait and became the Inuits. They were originally dark-skinned people, but for the ones who stayed up in the Alaska, Canada areas, they started becoming lighter, whereas the ones who moved into what we call today North America, Central America, South America, they still maintain their darkness, which is why when the Mali went over there, they found other people of color. And then when Columbus went there, he found Black people and the indigenous people because we had already been trading with them. And the same thing with DeSoto and Cortez, and all of that can be found in their journals, that they saw tall Black men and they saw the brown-skinned indigenous people who were there. And they had already been trading, and some had stayed there from other voyages when they had went over. But back to the thing, I can go off on tangents. But as far as the white people, there was no such thing as a white person prior to 8,000 years ago. You know, well, 6,000 to 8,000 years ago, that skin tone wasn't available.
So that brings up a question. Since we're all the same,
mm-hmm.
and that's how they became white,
mm-hmm.
why they not like us?
Well, calling a geneticist here. What do you mean by that? Let me be specific.
I mean, when I say not like us, we as a people really
mm-hmm.
don't have empathy. You have so many breeds of dogs, but they all dogs. But there are different breeds of dogs.
Right.
You got different breeds of human, and where we have a lot of melanin, they lack empathy. They have no empathy.
I can't do that, man. I can't rock with that one. I can't rock with that one. I can see how that can be thought of. Okay, so even though we didn't get into it, even though we didn't say it, I look at myself, when I look in the mirror, what I see is an adept hermetic alchemist. So my mind,
slow down.
An adept hermetic alchemist. I would never call myself a master, but a hermetic alchemist is someone who sees the universe exactly how it is and tries to understand the natural laws that how the universe functions, that everything functions based on vibration, frequency, and energy, and that the mind is the creation of all things. The alchemy aspect of it is always trying to level yourself up from base level to gold level. So this is not only in how you treat yourself, but how you treat other people, but how you think. So I think beyond race. Race is an invention of man.
Right.
So it really doesn't exist as far as Black race, white race, differences, that sort of thing. But what does exist is people's brainwashed mentality towards it. So when we see the lack of empathy, it can look like the lack of empathy in the broad spectrum of white people. There is a certain level to that makes it true. Because when we look at the history, what we see is a total disdain and lack of empathy towards Black people. But that lack of empathy comes about because certain people in power, in their European structures, decided to brainwash the average European into believing a certain thing. And that belief is passed down from generation to generation to generation. In the same way Christianity has been passed down, my ancestors, when they first got to America in 1680, well, at least one of my ancestors, when they first got to America in 1680, Christianity was beaten into the first one. It was taught to the second generation. And then that generation taught. So all the way up until you get to me, Christianity was continuously taught, even though it was first beat. The lack of empathy towards Black people begins to initiate when Pope Nicholas IV writes a papal bull that says, hey, there are different races. The ones in Africa, they Black, go down there, conquer them, make them into slaves in perpetuity, and then, yes, make them Christian as well. They then, and now what they started telling people in the 1500s and 1600s, the political powerhouses of Europe start telling the poor people in Europe, we're white and they're Black. They are the curse of Ham, right? Which is actually the curse of Canaan, but they are the curse of Canaan, or they are the mark of Cain. Start giving them biblical reasons why the Black people must be subservient to the white people. And even though chattel slavery is valid in their book, in the Bible, they start telling them, you are a superior race to these Black people because God has ordained it. So that brainwashing took effect. The poorest white man, like LBJ said, the poorest white man is made to feel better than the richest Black man. then they teach their children that, and they teach their children and their children and their children. And so the lack of empathy becomes a social consciousness that is developed. A white person can have empathy if they're taught it, just like we are taught as well. We were taught to have an extra empathy for white people. If you think about it, through slavery, through Jim Crow, through the Civil Rights Act, we were taught to give people and white people an extra pass. That's why them Karen tears be working like a champ. Karen called the police on you. You find out that the Karen is wrong. But what do black people do? I don't want to press charges. I just hope you learn your lesson and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
But we've been brainwashed to think that we should give them an extra pass. But they've been brainwashed to think that they are superior. So even the most non-racist white person, to a certain degree, based on how societal norms are, has been brainwashed to think that they are superior. And so because of that superiority complex, there then becomes the lack of empathy. So that's why I can't say that they are genetically predisposed to a lack of empathy. They are just brainwashed to lack of empathy.
Beautiful. I take that approach. I was kind of being funny.
I know
that approach to really unpack that and bring that out. That was beautifully stated. So if that's the case, how do we get out of this? It's not about wish you ever come, black people, let's get together. That'll never happen.
We can't be
so
equal.
Wouldn't you say it's all about putting there, whether you black, white, whatever color, having the same mind, but a new frame of mind, understanding that we're all one and not a separate. And I think that's what's missing. Unpack that.
So I think in order for us to get past that we have to have a dissolution of religion completely. Like religion has to be looked upon as the mythologies that it is. Because within each of these religions, there is the superiority complex. The Israelites believe that they are the chosen ones of God. So there's a superiority complex in that they are the chosen and everybody else is just grafted in. But then the Christian feels as they were grafted in because of Jesus. And so they are superior because they get to go to heaven and everybody else is going to hell. These types of separation of we are righteous and you are paganistic or heathenistic, that whole paradigm has to be destroyed. And you find that in every religion as well. The Muslims think that they are the ones that's going to heaven and they are following Allah. They're doing it right. 40,000 denominations of Christianity, each one thinks they're doing it right. Yet they still have their caste systems and things of that nature. So very few religions measure up. So all religions need to be destroyed, taken away, given up. When we come to that aspect of it, and that takes away a little bit of the superiority complex, the next part comes in government. I know it, but as the governments are taken over by people who didn't grow up in these religious cycles and just have a base form of morality of thinking that I don't want to treat anybody any differently than I want to be treated, and that's a new paradigm that the Gen Zers and the millennials are more prominent in right now. As we see that group change governmental practices, then people will start to get more into that mindset. And then there's two other ways: warfare and total separation, which is unlikely. And the last one that I'm pretty sure Sean can appreciate is everybody start banging everybody. If everybody start banging everybody, then everybody's going to be somewhat brown, and then we just have nationalities to deal with. But if everybody
you got one more.
Hell no.
No, not at all. Well, because we can't come together as a people.
No.
So we have to find like-minded people that change one at a time.
There's only one way that we can come together as a people, in all honesty. The church literally has the power to do it. And that is, if the church started a process, let's say you were the pastor of the church, then just tell me what you think. You the pastor of the church. Every Sunday, you went through your church, you found out who all owns businesses in your church. and you vet those businesses. There's an NDA to say that they're not responsible for any things you mess up, but you vet the business that they're a legal, legitimate business. If every Sunday when you ask for that collection plate, you also instruct your parishioners to shop at these businesses first. All right. Now you also tell those businesses, when you grow because of the people of this church, when you look to hire people, you hire first out of this church. That will cause the business to grow. That will cause the dollar to circulate. People are now becoming more employed. On the profit side of the church, you start to buy plazas and you put businesses from the people in your church, from the business program that you're teaching them how to develop a business. You're also teaching basic economics. You're teaching credit. You're teaching all these different financial programs and customer service and other trainings like computer training, just whatever you need to teach in this church to grow the level of market worthiness of your parishioners as well as the businesses. But you buy plazas and you put your businesses in this plaza. Hey, Sunday's over. Everybody's go over here. We got 5 restaurants over in this plaza. You know, this is why the church will have a business side as well. And then after the church grows enough, you add a bank. Now you start banking with your people. You start buying all the free open houses in your community, and you give mortgages to the people in your church to buy the houses in this community. So basically, when a church builds the economics of their neighborhood and the people in that neighborhood, one, you're going to become a mega church because everybody wants to have some money. They want a house and they want to be financially free. So you're going to draw people in. Other business owners, that church support business. I'm going over to that one. You know, I want to buy a house. I done seen everybody in this church get a house. I'm tired. I've been living in an apartment since I was a child, and now I'm 40 years old, still living in an apartment. People will flock to that because it takes care of their basic needs of provision and security. The church grows. Pastor becomes the mega pastor. You can have all these trappings because all your people are also getting their part, you know, for whatever level they want to do it in. That level of economics would bring a community together because that's what we see in the Jewish community. That's what we see in the Vietnamese, the Spanish community. When they're in a city where there are lower economics, they pool their economics in their community to grow. And that's all we have to do. The nations do it in a heartbeat. And not every business is going to be successful, but you'll have a higher probability of success. And economics is what could bring us together. But the church could do it easier than anybody else, unfortunately.
Interesting concept, man.
Yeah.
I could see that working if you could get people on one card. But once again, that class system, you know, I'm a bishop.
Yeah. I went to
I can see how you work through that because everybody wants their own.
Yeah. For about 7 years, I went to every church I possibly could go to in the Atlanta area and tried to talk these different pastors into doing it. And all of them were afraid of losing their 501c3.
Right.
I'm like, look, these people got to invest in themselves if you want them to then invest in you.
No faith in believing and stepping out on faith.
Yeah. That's like, you should be stepping out on faith in this.
Nobody, I ain't talking about my faith. I wasn't talking about my faith. I got you.
Yeah. And I was like, no important person in the Bible is poor. Think who
was, that's true.
None of them was poor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Abraham got wealthy, pimping his wife.
Yeah. Them last 12, shit, none of them Negroes were poor.
Yeah, exactly. Let me tell you, there's a part of the Bible that lets you know that them 12 weren't poor. That whole story about them feeding 5,000 people with a 2-piece fish sandwich.
Yeah, right.
There's a line in there where I don't know which apostles supposedly said it, but that joker said it would take us working 30 days in order to feed these 5,000 people. Now, I want you to think about what kind of money are you bringing in that 1 month's pay you can feed 5,000 people? That's not poor. Yeah. Go get 12 poor people like the hood right now and see if they make enough money to feed 5,000 people. Hell no. You got to have something.
Yeah.
And remember, Peter was out there fishing, got all that fish. He had to call his other boats in. There's no that fleet. So,
fleet.
Yeah, these not poor people. Yeah. They weren't important. Ain't nobody in the Bible poor who is important. So,
you know, when you were talking about how we get separated from just in our culture itself, I couldn't help but think in the way that white people encourage us to be separate from our people. And I personally experienced it by going to the PWIs and all that good shit.
Mm-hmm.
But white folks would look at me in my face and tell me, well, Sean, you're such a good one. You're not like all the others. You're not like the others. And, you know, it took me a long time to be offended by that shit. And I'll be like, well, what's the others?
Yeah.
Shit, what do the others do?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to see what we're going to take.
That lack of empathy brainwashing, that didn't just happen with white people. It happened with us as well. You know, this is why we love good times. Because we can relate to good times. I couldn't relate to good times. And even though I was poor at the time, I thought good time was some bullshit.
Right.
Because I was like,
Really?
hell yeah.
Did you relate to the Jeffersons?
For the most part, and except for the ignorant attitude of George at times. You know, the buffoonery that he would display, that part, and his anger issues, that part I couldn't. But I sure hell could relate to build a business, work hard. Then once you start open up one shop, open up a 2 shop, 3 shop, got 7 dry cleaners going on, and I'm finna move on up. The only thing I didn't like, they never showed him giving back and helping other people run. That and his anger was the only parts that I was like, that's messed up.
Oh, so you were different. You seen things differently from a long time ago. You wasn't like the others.
No.
You wasn't like us. Your ass was different on the block.
I always felt like different. Like,
Hey, Don,
alchemize and send through the spirit realm.
I ain't going there fucking with Rim.
yeah, pretty much.
That nigga be on some bullshit.
I just be like, why would you self-inflict that word? We ain't reclaiming nothing. That word cannot be reclaimed. That word has one meaning, and that is to dehumanize people. And so I was like 10, 12 years old, fighting 16, 17-year-olds who wanted to call me.
I used to feel that way too, but it's just a common thing that I do now. You know, one day you never know, I might go and just like drinking soda. I'm going on a fast. I'm not drinking no more sodas. And then I can sit back and say, you know what? I ain't saying nigga no more.
I never could understand that. You mean this black boy, these 2 black boys don't got no parent, no family? You know black people don't do that. We don't push our kids off to no white families. This is the bull. You know, I used to turn that shit off. I come down, see my cousin watch it, turn this off. I'd rather you put on a Western or some shit than to watch this nonsense.
Hey, wait, hold on. So did you watch the Cosby Show?
Actually, yes, I did. I watched the Cosby Show.
Okay.
And I will watch that to this day. Regardless of what he did in his personal life, what that show demonstrated was uncommon for black media at that time frame. A healthy
what he did do was help a lot of black people.
Yeah.
And he went back and give stuff.
Exactly. It was always doing that. And then one of the effects that it had in Atlanta was that all of a sudden he made college sweatshirts the fashion, right?
Popular.
So we was wearing college sweatshirts that we ain't never heard of. And subconsciously that started generating, let's go to college, let's do better. You know what? I can be a doctor, my wife can be a lawyer, and we can still have this great romance. We can still raise our kids, because somehow they always had time. Every doctor and lawyer I know, them motherfuckers work 12, 14 hours a day. But they,
I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to be a lawyer because I couldn't pronounce all the damn medicines and all the names, all that crazy shit as far as in medicine. So I said, let me stick with the law.
It made me think about becoming a lawyer at one point when I was in high school. So yeah, I watched that show. Then of course we went back into the whole gangs and shooting everybody and all that shit was promoted. And so that's the thing. It's a constant brainwashing that's going on. Yeah, they always try. There's always a process of their program that's trying to brainwash people into following a certain path to keep people separated. They also want to keep us separated from the disenfranchised white people and the disenfranchised Spanish people. Because if all the disenfranchised people came together, the whole power structure falls apart. So they want to keep us all fighting each other, just like they did in the 15 and 1600s when they told that poor, broke Irish man, hey, you might be Irish and I'm Anglican, but you're white and they're black, and so you're still better than them. So even though the Irish were treated like trash when they came to America, the Irish still thought they were better than the black people who was living the same way they was living and being treated the same way that they was being treated. Until...
You know what, Coach? I'm just going to say, man, just sitting here, I would love to sit in some type of master class with you. Do you do anything like that? You tell me where you going to be, what you can be, and shit. I'm going to fly out and sit in the audience with your ass.
Well, actually,
you got anything coming up?
There actually is. We are actually planning in November. Now, even though I have a webinar that's going, I will constantly have webinars that you will be able to see on my channel at different time frames. The next one, that we're doing, and depending upon the publishing of this, on May 4th, I'm doing one on a very deep dive into the flood story and how the Noah's flood is an impossibility to have happened, and where did this information actually come from. But I'll also be doing ones on the Exodus and so on and so forth as far as a webinar. But then in November, we are planning to have a meetup seminar, a physical in-present meetup seminar down in Corpus Christi, Texas in November.
Oh, okay.
Haven't solidified the date yet, but that is something that we are working on right now. You said right down the street. Where you at?
Yeah, in Dallas.
Oh, shit.
Well,
you're 4 hours away from me right now. I live in San Antonio.
I know. I'm a 72-minute flight from Dallas to Corpus Christi.
Yeah, so we're going to do that in November down in Corpus Christi because we plan on moving to Corpus Christi.
Keep your ass off of SPID, though, whatever you do.
SPID? What's that?
South Padre Island Drive, yeah.
I'm going to go down there.
They say it's real strong.
People, baby.
Yeah, buddy, I'm saying they see your ass with that cowboy hat, they're going to be thinking, hey, because I love you, I'm going to try to tell you some real shit, okay?
See, let me tell you about that hermeticism. See, that hermeticism exudes an energy vortex that surrounds me that it just makes people gravitate and do like, I want to hate him, but I just can't hate him.
Can't hate him.
Yeah. Last night on my live, the Bible believer, he came on and he wants to hate me. He really does. But the more we talk, the more I can sit down and have a beer with that guy, even though I don't drink beer, but I can sit down and talk to that guy. I could actually be cool with him. If it wasn't for, we could probably be friends if it wasn't for this one issue. They all feel that.
He black. That's that one issue.
Some white ones.
But there was one other cat that felt like everybody loved him too.
Who was there?
Jesus. And he found out there was a whole lot of people that hated his ass.
So the story
so
right.
So
according to the story.
Yeah.
Because
so
the story ain't
real.
real.
To the cross.
According to the story, okay, is the story real?
No.
Jesus to the cross?
Nah.
There's no Jesus.
Yeah. See, there's two Jesus.
Hey, but no, wait. Oh,
there's
hell
two
no.
Jesus. There's the biblical literary Jesus.
Okay.
And I said two, there's five. There's 5 Jesuses.
Oh, hell.
Wow,
Man, make up your damn mind.
I got you. It's
now
5.
we got 5 Jesuses.
So
A white Jesus.
There's the one, the biblical literary Jesus.
Okay.
And then there's the 4 Jesuses that were itinerant preachers that was written about, that their story was combined together to then make the beginnings of the biblical Jesus, and then decades to centuries go by and the story is elevated and turned into a big fish story. Like when you went to Corpus Christi, you caught that little ass fish that big, but by the time you got to Dallas, the fish was this big.
Right.
Yeah. So what you have is, Josephus ben Matthias, who became the scribe for Titus Emperor, he wrote in his War of the Jews and everything about 4 different itinerant preachers who was going around claiming to be messiahs. One flipped tables, another one has a brother named James, another claimed to have done some healing and all that. But now many Christians jump on in Josephus where he writes, and they say he wrote about Jesus. Well, we found that that's a lie. He never said that Jesus was the Christ. But so Josephus writes about 4 different people named Yahshua, which was a common name. It was like John in America, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it was a common name. And these people were all claiming to be Messiah types. They were revolting against the Roman rule in the name of Judaism. So because of this revolt, these constant revolts that was going on every year, Pontius Pilate was killing mugs every year who was claiming to be messiahs. So bad was Pontius Pilate that he was called back to Rome, but thankfully the emperor died before he got there because he was going to be punished for being so cruel, right? So, because Augustus was calling him back. But then this Josephus writes about them, and then Vespasian gets the bright idea. Vespasian realizes that in order to stop the Jewish people from revolting all over the Roman Empire, because you see, the Roman Empire's job is to keep the empire together and expanding. But the Jewish revolts happening in Alexandria, in Judea, in Rome, in Anatolia, all of this stuff is happening. It's disrupting the Roman Empire. And them paying they had their temple tax that they was paying so that they didn't have to worship a statue of Caesar in their temples. All this stuff was causing problems. And the story of Messiah was the biggest issue. So his thought process is, let's create a passive version of Judaism. And so the first Gospels are then being created in and around that. It wasn't actually the Gospels yet, but the first storytelling starts happening in and around that time frame right before Paul, right? So you got this around 50, 60 CE time frame that they're starting to tell this story. Paul picks it up. Or Josephus writes these letters as if he is Paul. And it's between Josephus, Bimathea, Philo of Alexander, who was a Hellenistic Jew who was a tax collector and running things for the Roman Empire in Alexandria, Egypt, and the Herod that was in place at the time frame. So they start this story, and it gets picked up about this Messiah who came and he healed people. Basically, you get your Mark version of Jesus. But Paul writes about this pacifistic Jesus, that you just got to believe, kind of Romanized version of Jesus. And that story gets bigger and bigger. So then Matthew, somebody writes Matthew, what becomes Matthew. And that story, let's add a few more miracles. Let's make him a little bit more magnificent. Plus, we really want this to be angled at the Jews. So Matthew is written to the Jews, right? And then Luke comes along and John comes along, and the story gets bigger and bigger as each one of these are told. More and more miracles happen. You find miracles in John that you don't find in Mark. So your fish you caught, but by the time you ride 5 hours to Dallas, your fish is this big. So the story just gets bigger and it keeps just growing. So Vespasian is thinking it's going to calm down the Jewish people. They're all going to convert because they believe this Messiah was coming. Well, it didn't work. The Jews, they actually creates 2 religions that are now fighting over the same God. And then you start having breakdowns even within the religion. And these breakdowns happen immediately. You got Gnostics, you got Lucians, you got Valentinians, you got Marcions, you got 11 different denominations of Christianity in first century. When Constantine finally in 325 says, okay, the Orthodox Christians who are in my army, that's the type of Christianity that we want. And so they start following, they create that, and they go off and they kill off. Ignatius creates the canon that is agreed upon about 25, 30 years later. And then around 381, you get Emperor Theodosius comes in and he declares Rome a Christian nation and kills everybody who disagrees. So now you got the Roman army behind it. So to go all the way track back, the story of Jesus is based off of the accounts of at least 4 different people that Josephus wrote about that was never claimed to be the Messiah by Josephus. And based on his writings, the Marvel comic books version of Jesus is then created, and it's called the New Testament. So
Uh-huh.
the biblical Jesus don't exist, but it's based off of the attributes of at least 4 different people who never did any of the things as far as the supernatural stuff that the Bible claims. These people just preached and started a war. Like Barabbas. Barabbas' name is Jesus. His name is Barabbas, Yeshua, whatever his other name is. But he's a
Don,
Jesus.
Don, check
Wait
this
a
out.
minute. So
Don.
you mean to tell me Jesus didn't walk on water?
Hold on. What, Don, do you realize what just happened here? We getting ready to go viral with this shit because for the first time in life, I know I have just heard that there's not 1, not 2, not 3 and 4, but 5 different Jesuses. And now I want to know, so we done broke the story right here on Prodigal Podcast. And I want you to know that, I don't know where this man read this shit at because we ain't never heard of no shit like this here before. But this is what I want to know. I want to know what's Jesus' mama and daddy name was Joseph and Mary. Because that's the Jesus, I mean, that's the only Jesus I've heard about. That when I say my prayers tonight, I say in Jesus' name. So tell me, what Jesus, all this time I've been lied to? Yo, man, got him out of it.
Now, the Joseph and Mary names were, it's easy to understand how the Joseph and Mary names were chosen. So when Matthew and Luke are writing, they are writing to the Jewish people. And in order for them to make Jesus fit, Jesus has to come from the line of David, right? Now, they knew the line of David, and mind you, they're writing this decades, almost a century later after the story supposedly happened, right? So they are claiming, oh, there was a guy named Joseph in, first century, about 50, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. And he was from the line of David by his ancestry. There's this other woman, her name was Mary, that he was married to. She's from the Levitical line that tracks back to Aaron. So that gives you to the Moses. So what we're going to do is we're going to put them 2 together as the mom and daddy of Jesus, Hercules, Achilles. Yeah.
You telling me now that God has sex with multiple bitches around here?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's a common,
that was
a common belief. As common as people think of resurrections today, that was a common thought. That, hey,
so you got females walking down the street, throwing their leg wide open, talking about come get it, God. For real.
Yeah, pretty much.
Man, quit playing. Man.
Yeah. If you think about a lot of the Greek stories, a lot of the Mesopotamian stories, the Babylonian stories, God had sex with women and they produced demigods. Even within the own literature of the Old Testament, the Torah, the B'nai Elohim came down and had sex with the men, the daughters of men, and produced the Nephilim, and it always weirded me out. It first says they were great men of renown. Well, that's a positive thing. So they had sex with them and there was a positive thing because of the babies they had, but then later on, they become evil, But the only reason they became evil because the book of Enoch, which wasn't written until like 300 BCE, said that they became evil. Prior to that, in Genesis, you don't really see them becoming evil. God just says everybody became evil.
All because of Apple.
Yep. Apple, pomegranate, banana.
Man, that's some good stuff.
We got to go to this masterclass, boy, in Corpus Christi. I got to sit here because I want to know how in the hell this man know all this stuff. What books? How many books? Man, let me see your library. Pan the camera around to your library because I want to see what all these books and shit you done read to get all this different information.
Well, part of my library was lost 10 years ago. What I do have is downstairs in boxes. But I got to say, over the last probably 15 years, it's not books. It's PhD papers. It's going to museums. meeting people, meeting curators of museums, becoming acquainted with them, and then gaining access into the bottom of a museum. Any museum you go to, they're only showing you about 10% of what they got.
Right.
But, becoming friends with archaeologists, at least to the point where we're sharing information. Like John Anthony West was an archaeologist that I used to communicate with back in the day before he passed away. And he was an amazing Egyptologist who refused to just go with the status quo. He's the one who realized that the water weathering on the Sphinx identified the Sphinx as being around for at least 13,000 to 26,000 years.
Wow.
So the whole idea of Khufu building the Great Pyramids in 2500 BCE is a lie. So, but PhD papers is primarily how I've studied for the last 15, 20 years.
So when it comes to introspection, any of this revelation either comes to introspection, or you're just mostly going off of the papers that you read, the scholarship that you've been.
A lot. So I'll read all the information. Now that's just the analytical part of it, right?
All right.
And that's just the intelligent part.
Correct.
But then I sit down and I meditate. I meditate every day. And I sit down and I meditate on that information. And the more I meditate on it, it's like in my mind, I start seeing how pieces start to come together, where the spider web weave starts to make the pattern. And so first I do boil it down to this thing called the trivium. So the trivium is get all the facts. Now sit and come to an understanding of those facts. Now, once you come to an understanding of those facts, put those facts into practice so that they're tested. Whatever the results are, those just are the results. Now, if the results don't seem right, go back. Maybe there's some more facts. Maybe there's a different understanding, and put it into practice.
The scientists do.
And then I just do it on an esoterical level as well, where, it's like, okay, there are laws of science, laws of the universe that we don't know. They're enacting upon us at all times, but we don't quite understand how is it that I can have an idea and then you could be on the other side of the planet and have the exact same idea.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be something in the esoteric thought process of every thought is a frequency and wavelength and goes into the ether, and every person can pull down information from that.
Energy. Right.
Right.
You got consciousness. You got that ground field.
Yeah.
And all of us tapped into that ground field.
Exactly.
So because of entanglement, everything is connected because of entanglement.
Yes.
No Willie, no Jada.
Exactly.
So in the field, whatever you want to call it, everything is there. Everything is a possibility in the field.
Right.
So therefore, whether I pick it up, you pick it up, he pick it up, because right now, I am you, you are me, he is him. We're the same source. We're like God playing chess by himself on different timelines, because it's only one source, different avatars, different thoughts. We're a thought. That's it. We're just a thought playing out in the mind of God.
Yeah, you sound like a Hermeticist, because that's exactly where Hermeticism teaches, that the all is mind and all of creation exists in the mind of the all. And we exist as the physical matter of the thought energy that proceeds from the mind of the all, and we replicate that ourselves. When you have a dream or you daydream, you are creating a universe in your mind. And for the time frame that is created, it lives. Time right now has nothing to do with how time passes in your mind. Like when you dream, you may only dream for 15 minutes, but you know, I had a whole month worth of stuff happening in your mind when you was dreaming, right? So time then becomes irrelevant. In the idea of Hermeticism, you also find this in Gnostic teachings and the teachings of the Tao by Lao Tzu, and Buddhism to a certain degree. You get this metaphysical thought process that allows you to tap into that. But most people they restrict themselves from being able to tap into it. And so, but through processes of meditation, I use to help me get into the right vibrational pattern to be able to meditate in such a way that the information can be downloaded to me. So when I take all that stuff I've read, and then I download from the ether or from the mind of the all, as you may say, then it becomes clarified. The understanding is then there, and those are the things. And then I start to realize, what is it within me that blocks me from being able to have that clarity? So for about 15, 20 years ago, I started working on getting rid of all fear, getting rid of all guilt, getting rid of all shame, getting rid of the loss of love, getting rid of the disconnections. Stop lying to myself about myself, and then releasing earthly attachments. It's basically, that's the pathway of opening your chakras, right? It's not so much that I'm like fully like, oh, chakras is the shit, but it's just a pathway to get to a certain point of enlightenment. So as I utilized that technique and got past all of those things, so about 10 years ago, when I really got past 99% of all that, it's like so much information became clarified. All this stuff I had been studying became clarified. Data is just pulled. I didn't prepare for today because I had no idea what we was going to talk about, right?
We didn't either.
But everything just pulls its
Holy Spirit.
Yeah. It's like knowledge, something that I studied 20 years ago, all of a sudden it becomes relevant, and all the information comes along, and all of it is, becomes concise, as if I just read it 30 minutes before we got on here,
And the information that you downloaded then is now applicable. And, for the journey that we're on here with this podcast, I just like to say, brother, I really appreciate you, because you opened up my eyes to a whole lot of things. Especially, I'm getting ready to go and investigate for myself about all these 5 Jesuses. I'm going to ask my mama about that. Hey, you know about these 5 Jesuses? Y'all been lying to me? What happened?
Your mom might catch some hands messing with your mama.
Boy, get out of here with that mess.
Boy, there's only one black Jesus. Yeah, but we all good, though.
It's Holy Week. Holy Week, and you carrying on like that?
The sad part is that he probably would have been more, if he was a real person, he would have been more of a medium brown.
Yeah.
With the incursion of Greeks and Romans and all that, he probably would have been a good medium brown.
So you saying he ain't from Bethlehem? He wasn't born in no manger.
No.
His mama got done like a whole lot of those women back in them days. They was walking around getting ghosted.
They just picked a family that nobody would have anything to say about. They wouldn't be able to question them, and created a history.
Because they were poor.
That doesn't exist.
Wasn't poor?
Hell no.
Oh, man.
No, Joseph was. There's a couple things to let you know that Joseph wasn't poor.
Okay.
The first thing that let you know that Joseph wasn't poor is that Joseph was a tradesman. Now, even though they like to say he was a carpenter, it's most likely because of the lack of wood and the fact that near Nazareth, there's an ancient Roman rock quarry. He was most likely a stonemason. Now, stonemasonry is a high-paid job back then. That's skilled work. His family is supposedly attached to the line of David. They not poor. That's like, even though the Carnegies and the Rockefellers of today aren't as rich as the originals, they still ain't poor.
Right.
Like, so that's one issue. He's not poor. He would have never been attached to Mary if Mary's family was part of the Levitical line and with Elizabeth and her husband. So they don't mix up poor people and rich people. So he would have never been matched up with Mary. It's another reason why. And another reason, this is hugely telling that most people don't realize. He was allowed to, according to the Matthew, Matthew or Luke, according to the Matthew version, they picked up and went to Egypt, right? They went and crossed state lines, country lines. So back then, in order for a person to leave Judea and go to Egypt, you had to get paperwork from the state, like a passport, right? And you had to go to the king to get that. Now, if they was killing all the babies, he would not have gotten that passport, right? But he was able to just pick up and go to Egypt. The only people who had that type of free passport to go anywhere, anytime, were
Wealthy people.
craftsmen, wealthy craftsmen. You didn't have to be wealthy, but you also had to be a craftsman. You weren't poor. But if you were a stonemason, because the work of stonemasonry was needed throughout the Roman Empire, they didn't need just Pilate or Herod or any governors to give him paperwork at that moment. He just could pick up and go because they all wanted it. So that joker wasn't poor. He was in a very desirable skill trade.
I'm forgetting all about all of those stories and what you hear about it. Dude, you just don't woke up, man. Damn. Huh. I'm serious.
Fuck
I don't know what the fuck feel right about now. Yeah. I'm talking about this nigga done fucked up my whole Easter. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. This brother done fucked up my whole Easter.
Just go and put some blood on the...
That's it.
Put some blood on the door. Okay.
Just go. You know, it's
all the Passover,
circumstance anyway.
I mean,
Lord.
Honestly, God don't know which house is an Israelite house and which house is an Egyptian house. You got to put some blood on the door. So just go and put some blood on the door.
Oh, Jesus.
The hour is getting a little late.
It's all right.
Yeah, I'm going to hear it.
And we're going to wrap this up.
All right. Shoot.
If someone came to you, they're looking to deconstruct from religion, what would be your advice?
Oh. So, shameless self-promotion would be to contact me and let's get some coaching session going.
Okay.
That will be one way. But because and the reason why I say that it needs to be some outside intervention is simply because maybe they can follow a page like yours and pages like mine and be able to gain a lot of information. You have to disconnect your emotional attachment to the religion. I can teach them all the knowledgeable things, the literal, of why this story is unreal. But until we take away that emotional attachment, all that knowledge don't mean nothing, right? Now, one way to do that is to begin by assessing all the information about the Bible that is wrong, that is contradictions, that is historically inaccurate, and that is fairy tale, what they picked up from other groups. So yes, they should go and learn all those things, study how the Bible was created and all the characters don't match up the history. Then they need to be a part of some type of coaching or a group of people who can help them through the emotional part. Because you're going to piss off some family. You might lose some family. You might lose some friends. Then when you start to feel alone out there, there's a natural tendency to run back to what's safe. And you got that emotional attachment. So you need people around you to let you know that it's okay for you to emotionally detach from this religion, because that's the thing that's holding most of them back. There's a lot of people who know that the information is wrong, but that emotional attachment causes them to have cognitive dissonance and just ignore that information.
So as one deconstruct, they're going to run up into the dark night of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, if you can cross that river,
Mm-hmm.
it's home free after that.
Once you cross that river, then the devil goes away. It's like, oh, I left Christianity and now the devil's gone. And what they have to realize is that everybody, whether you were a Christian or not, you're going to go through stuff. You're going to go through emotional stuff. You're going to have issues. You're going to be deconstructing, and then something traumatic will happen in your life. And you instantly think, this traumatic event is happening because I left Christianity. But the reality is, it's happening because there's a line of decisions that you made or that other people made who can affect you that created this situation. Even if it's something that seems like an accident, there is no such thing as luck, chance, or miracle. It is simply cause and effect. The things that we don't know what the causation is, we call those luck, chance, or miracle. When you're deconstructing, when something like that happens, the first thing you do is start to think, but
yeah.
Right. What if I would have stayed? Well, even if you would have stayed, you still would have been driving down I-37 at this time frame, and the drunk driver on the other side of the road still would have came to hit your car, and then you're in the hospital. Same shit would have happened.
Right.
There is no difference in that thing, in that process. You still would have got COVID. You still would have went through the same process.
Hence the same phrase, the bad things happen to good people.
Yeah. And then the biggest dark
bad
night
things happen to believers.
Yeah, bad things happen to believers, but the biggest dark night of the soul is going to be the family members. Those people that you love, that you believe love and trust you, the relationship that you have, the connection you have is bigger than anything else. That's the part that when they start to disassociate from you, don't want to talk to you no more. I got people whose they mama disown them because they walked away from Christianity. Whole families disown them. That's the part of loneliness, because that was your true safety net, was that connection that you have. And I teach those people that family ain't got nothing to do with blood. It ain't got nothing to do with blood, ain't got nothing to do with who you grew up with. Family is the moment right now of who is in your life that loves you for being you, accepts you for being you. You know, my family is very Christian for the most part. Well, the older people in my family are Christian for the most part. Him and young or something else. My mom and my aunts were just here. And we had a wonderful time because they just accept me for who I am, you know. And I had it easy in that regard. My struggle came with other people who I had let get close to me who were part of the church. And then when they found out, they, you know, disowned me, you know. People who I had given more of my energy towards their family than I gave to my own family. And then they disowned me. So when they go through that, you really just have to realize you have to have somebody there with you that'll help you understand that that was your family, but that was predicated on you being just like them in this regard. Now you need to find a true family of people who just accepts you no matter if you agree or disagree.
Love me where I'm at.
Yeah.
Love me where I'm at.
Which is funny. The Bible book tells a little Christian they're supposed to do that, but they don't do it. This Jesus supposedly still loved everybody regardless if they believed him or not.
No, wait.
The literary, you know, the Paul Bunyan Jesus. Yeah.
Who lived not away in the...
What happened?
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
So the exact answer is, I don't damn know. Ain't nobody been there, came back and told me.
Man, that's why I like you. You ain't afraid to say what the fuck you don't know.
No. Now, my best estimate based on the scientific and esoteric knowledge that we have available right now, your consciousness is an energetic thought that's within you, that lives inside of this poverty suit that we call a body, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you die, when the body stops, because there's no such thing as death. It's just a transmutation of energy from one state to a next state, which has been a continuous process for all eternity.
Okay.
Your consciousness leaves this body. For most people, that consciousness is just going to disperse out and cease to exist as shown. There's no more showing. Now, there may be a core of your consciousness. That consciousness core may pull in other like energies, because what we do see in the energetic spectrum is that like energy comes and attaches itself to other like energy. Maybe that consciousness goes on to another realm, comes out as another person. It damn sure ain't gonna be a cow or a goat or a piece of grass, nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for most people, that consciousness just gonna disperse and you will never be shown again. Even if you came back as another consciousness and another human being, because of all the life experiences of that human being, it's somebody.
I believe.
Now, I do think if we raise our consciousness up to a higher level, that when we leave this body, that consciousness can stay intact. And if it can stay intact, then it can manifest whatever level of existence that it's prepared itself for on some other dimensional plane of existence. But most likely, your shit just gonna disperse.
Bro, I got a question. So remember earlier you said that you got looked at starting at the age of 9 because of the questions that you start having in and around the church.
Mm-hmm.
So around 9 for myself, I had the same question. You start asking questions. And one of the questions that I carry on to this day, and now that Don has brought you into this platform and it just, brightened my whole horizon and enlightened me on a whole lot of things, I want to ask you this one thing because I believe you have an answer for me. And it is simple. Out of all the 12 folks that was sitting around the table with Jesus on that Last Supper, and everybody we know was wealthy who was at that dinner, correct?
Mm-hmm.
They assumed to be some wealth. Okay.
Right.
So I want to know, when Jesus died, what happened to them mothers? Because you ain't heard nothing else from neither one of them, and can't nobody tell me where not now one of them is buried. Where not one of them's family, son, daughter, wife, husband, whatever. Can't nobody tell me where them Negroes is buried. I just want to know. And ain't nobody been related to them. And of all this time, just imagine if I was Peter's great times 1700 nephew. Do you know how rich I would be? And I'm just saying, ain't nobody can to nobody that was in the Bible. With Google and 23andMe and all the shit we got out here. I just want to know. And because your black ass, Mr. Cowboy himself, the Buffalo Soldier, is up here with us, please help me, sir, to help me where I can have a better kinetic energy amongst myself and not thinking that I am crazy as hell.
Well, I can't help you with the crazy as hell part because I think you got that on lock. All right.
Oh.
2 ways of thinking about this.
Hell.
The simplest and most direct answer is none of them existed. So, therefore, you are not going to find a grave, or you're not.
Oh my God!
Nor will you find a family lineage.
We don't fire on this bitch.
Wait a minute, John. It's deeper than that.
You're going to get the esoteric people who are going to come up and they're going to say, well, each one of the disciples represents one of the 12 zodiacs, and Jesus was the sun, and so they're going to go into all this bullshit. But the zodiacs is a bunch of bullshit as well. They are literary characters that were added to the story to give it that kind of thought process of 12, because 12 is popular. The Egyptians, Hero, had 12 followers. Dionysus had 12 followers. And yes, a lot of it was representing the 12 zodiacs. So Jesus then got to have 12 as well. There's 12 months of the year, so we got to have 12. Well, 13 months of the year, got to have 12. Jesus represents the 13. So you got to have all this bullshit. So the books are going to be written to imply those things, but none of these people existed. Let me put it like this. It wasn't until 180, when Irenaeus named the books Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John.
So none of those fools existed. So no. Peter didn't exist either.
Nah.
That you tell me. Oh my goodness.
Where the Catholic Church uses the term that, when Jesus said, upon this rock I will build my church, right?
Okay.
When in that same verse, when the Jesus character is referring to Peter as a proper name, is Petros. But when he says, upon this rock I will build my church, he uses the term Petra. Let's talk about inanimate objects. And is not referring to the actual person. But they took that, manipulated it, massaged it, gave the doctrine, and said Peter now is the first pope. The first pope was actually Peter. That's a tradition. That's not a reality. There's actually no lineage or paperwork or ceremonious situation where Peter was the pope and then the next pope and the next pope and the next pope. They made up the history of the pope, the papacy, in order to connect it to Peter. None of these people can be proven to exist because they didn't exist.
Well, there you have it, Sean.
Yeah.
All my life, I just been wanting to know, where are these Negroes buried at? Ain't nobody said they kin to them or nothing.
Well, see,
And I guess that explains it. And that just crushed my childhood thing. I used to always say, if I had a character that I was more like in the Bible, I always say I'm more like Peter, only because Peter cussed and he still loved God. But that was, I mean, that and Peter was fighting, you know what I'm saying? Jesus, come on, let's whoop this fool's head, you know?
And if you read more, then all of them did different things. Like Thomas supposedly went out to Mesopotamia and then out to India. Mark went to Egypt. Peter actually went to Rome and got into a magic fight with this other dude named Simon. And then actually caused the dude to fall and break his neck when he was up in the sky flying.
Well, damn.
According to the literature, Peter probably was in Rome and then he supposedly was crucified upside down.
And I didn't know how they was flying.
No.
Oh, so you know what that give me? I'm quite sure you familiar with Wakanda. So Wakanda Forever. So did you see Wakanda 2? You know,
of course.
When this fool come flying out the damn water with the fins on his feet and shit.
Yeah,
that's
He's talking about Namor.
I get it.
Let me show you how deep that. Let me show you how deep that go. That's a whole bunch of comic books on my wall.
Love it. Let's get out of here, man.
All right. Man, I tell you, we could talk for another 2 hours, but once again, we want to be respectful to your time as well as our listeners. But we definitely want to bring you back, Coach Wren.
Of course.
Your level of knowledge and practicality, you can break it down to the common core where the layman can digest it. And that's what I love about you. You're not coming from just book knowledge. You're coming from some real scholarship.
Thank you.
That you teach yourself. This one said you have the research yourself on the things that you teach. And I just commend you, my brother, to continue to do what you do. You are a beacon, a light out here in the world, especially in the conscious community, deconstructing folks one person at a time. So how can everyone get a hold of you once again on Facebook, Deconstructing Christianity, as well as YouTube?
Yep.
And
Instagram.
All your socials is the same?
Yeah, all my socials are the same, Deconstructing Christianity. Now on YouTube, if you type in Coach Renz, which is RENZ 33, it comes up a little bit faster. But yeah, Deconstructing Christianity, you looked it up, you'll be able to find me. And, you know, subscribe to the channel, follow, like, become a member, subscription holder on Facebook. You know, you got to, what that thing say, leave the church and finding God. So, you know, you want to support those channels. You want to support this channel, and you want to also support my channel. And I don't know if Sean has a channel. But yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We want to definitely, guys, go support him. He's doing a fantastic job. But of course, it does cost to keep the lights on. It costs to produce shows. We're not asking for your tithes. Over here, we don't believe in tithes. We don't believe God even needs your money.
Hold on a second, Doc. Close them doors.
But you do want to sow into good ground, something that is helping you. You want to support it, and that's how we spread the news. Once again,
they need to get come up off that cash.
Come off that cash.
I done had the ushers close the doors, so ain't nobody moving.
And the thing about it, I like being real with people. I tell them straight up, look, if you send me some money through Cash App, I'm buying. I usually on my lives and a lot of my videos, you know, I smoke cigars. I tell them straight up, if you give money today, it's going to cigars. I'm going to buy some cigars with it. You know, there's no, if you give money, you're going to get this overpouring and your cup going to wash over. No, if you want this information to continue to flow, if you still want to grow, if you find it that it has value, like everybody who's listening right now, if you find value in what the Prodigal Podcast is doing, then support it, because this takes a lot of time, effort. It takes equipment, takes editing, it takes people. So support this podcast because it's bringing something to you, and you will pay for everything else that brings you value. So you need to pay for this one. You need to support this channel as well.
Right.
Any closing word, Mr. Sean?
Yeah, you know I do. I just want to say, Coach Wren, I really appreciate you, brother. And I'm serious. I consider it to be an honor to be able to sit down and actually talk to you. I believe that, you know, I'm going to speak some words over your life. I believe that you are really getting ready to be effective and be a beacon for, you know, a lot of people to follow and finding themselves on their new journeys. And I appreciate that. And I'm getting ready to log on and join your YouTube channel right now. I'm going to be one of your new followers.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to tell everybody I know and everybody besides people that see this podcast. But yeah, I'm getting ready to tell them, hey, that's the dude that was talking about, you know, we got 5 different Jesuses, you know.
Expect on that part.
I just want to thank you, sir, for making me rich. Oh, you going to make us rich because we get ready to go viral.
Yes, sir. All right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Prodigal the Podcast. I'm your host, Don Jackson, my co-host, Big Sean, and
hey.
Coach. Man, we want to thank you.
Yes, we do.
Peace and good night.
Thank you for tuning in to Prodigal, the podcast. We hope today's episode inspired you to embrace your own journey of self-discovery and transformation. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Join us again next time as we continue to explore the ever-evolving world of culture with your hosts, Don Jackson and Big Sean. Until then, keep discovering, keep transforming, and keep being the amazing person you are.
Peace.